And hi, chat. Hopefully you can hear us. I am still I'm like a goldfish every time that I do this, so if we do it enough times, I will figure it out. Hopefully. Oh, Edo, we want to say something about the league, right? The listener league. Yeah. No, not the leak. Oh, yeah. I do not leak, Navigator. You leak. That is a very old movie reference that I don't expect you to know. But yeah, Hat said he's going to help me with all the things this weekend, so. Yeah, well, so have I. So, you know. I've been adjusting to the return to office life, and it is I mean, it's better with the train at least, but oh, did I not change the title? Crap. See, I knew there was something. Okay. All right. That is changed. I don't do that for my own stream either, so that's not a surprise. Like I've been, you know, like it's like a 20% chance that I remember to change the stream title before I go live on my own stream, let alone on the podcast. Yeah. No, that was Flight of the Navigator, Nomad Farmer, with Fred Savage, which is one of the few movies I remember seeing as a kid. So. Yeah, probably that seems like it's a bit intense for a 7-year-old, but yeah. I don't know. I remember dragging my parents to take me to the Wizard when I was like 10, because that was the Super Mario Brothers 3 Nintendo Direct. Edel's audio isn't coming through the stream. Can you say some? Oh yeah, so it super isn't. Why is that? Okay, hold on. Oh, I know why. No, I know why. It's the same stupid thing as the video. Try now.
Hello, chat.
Well, it doesn't work if you don't say something.
Something.
Okay.
They're not saying anything. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Chat needs to tell us because we just hear. I can hear you.
Chat can hear me.
Okay, chat can hear us. Which one of us
okay. Okay.
Okay, it's there. All right. Oh, I don't have Audacity.
Should I make sure?
That. Yeah. I should have Audacity open. That is the thing I should do. Okay.
And I get to sit here with Audition open, even though I'm not recording the way that said to, because I failed at Voicemeeter.
It's okay. It took us a lot longer than it ought to have to get Voicemeeter to work. So
I was just sort of like, well, this is working, right? This is fine. I'm recording an Audition. It's just me.
I mean, then why don't you just record in Audacity then? It doesn't matter if it's not doing the thing.
Well,
I'm doing.
Then I've got
you have to do
it. Because
okay.
I can just import everyone else's stuff, and mine is already there.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
It's fine.
So it's not as much of a burden as one might be led to believe.
Well, actually, the main reason to record an Audition is so I can make the markers.
Oh yeah.
So the markers are like, I mean, they're only on my track, but that's fine.
Because I won't remember to do it. I 100% will not remember to do it. Yeah. Yeah.
No shot.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we got a quorum. We all good to start recording, or?
I believe so.
I can start recording.
Okie doke. I am recording.
I am recording.
Recording.
Okay. Okie doke. And did I? No, it is. See, this is why I set up the Stream Deck so that I don't have to remember to do all these things, which is why it's actually set up for me, which is nice. So I'm like, oh, I don't have the cart. Well, yes, I did because the Stream Deck did it for me. So, thank you, past Steve. Anyway, all right. So I'm ready if you're all ready.
Ready?
I mean,
All right.
said record.
So, yeah. Well, we can. Okay. So, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
I think I messed that one up.
Well, that's why we do it twice.
Me too.
3, 2, 1. Okay. Good luck with that, Adam. All right, starting the show in 5, 4, 3, 2.
I grant you permission to speak. Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you. Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend.
All right, this is me. Wow, okay, it's been a day. Welcome to episode 398 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, June 1st, 2023, in the evening. Coming to you from Nomergan, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. And from Northrend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
And joining us from Teldrassil, California, we have this week's guest. Okay, is it Magesa or Magesa? Because I always... Are those both
Magesa.
wrong? Magesa. Is that all right?
That
Okay.
is yes.
This is what happens when like you only see stuff in text. It's like when reading a book and you finally talk to someone about the book and you're like, wait a minute, I've never said this out loud.
Or you finally listen to the audiobook and everything is different than you thought it was.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, okay. So Magesa, it's hard. And from all around the world, we have you listeners. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please leave us a 5-star review. Always helps people discover the show. And we're gonna kick it off once again with an interview. So the listeners who I don't hang out in Discord will have an opportunity to get to know you a little bit. So welcome to the show. Can you give us a brief background of your history with Hearthstone?
Yeah. So I've been playing since 2015. I had just a little bit of like a Magic the Gathering and World of Warcraft background, but not a lot. I loved Hearthstone, but I didn't play super competitively or know the community very much for a while. I just kind of hung out in like Gold and Platinum and played terrible homebrew decks. Mostly Priest, Control Priest. So I come from that same background, Wicked.
Oh no.
And also like any inner fire priest that I could come up with. I one time stayed up all night on a work trip, so it was very ill-advised, trying to make this like Velen, Ouch and I like combo priest thing work. I think I got it to work like once. It wasn't quite worth it, but it was fun.
Did you also have a cloning gallery priest phase at one point?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
that was the best version of that deck. So yeah, that's.
It had to play. That. I did in like 2018. I was sort of having a hard time IRL and wasn't using Hearthstone in as healthy a way, so I took a break for a while. Came back, Darkmoon Fair, and they gave me this deck because I was a returning player, which is a great idea that they give those decks. And it was this like absolute value pile priest deck with the Priest Galakron and Sethic Veilweaver and Mirazond. I literally never beat at Ticketus Warlock because there was no win condition. But I got to play with all the cards that had come out since I had stopped playing, and because you discover them off Sethic Veilweaver. And had a great time. I still have that deck in my collection, just like for sentimental reasons. And eventually I got more into the community though. Some streamers, HS Replay and the Deck Tracker, found Vicious Syndicate and the podcast, and there was this guy Ridiculous Hat, and I was like, he's cool. So I checked out his other podcasts, found the Coin Concede and the Coin Concede Discord, and through all of that, especially here, really improved a lot. I hit Legend in September 2021 with, no surprises if you're in the Discord, Shadow Priest. This was the terrible, degenerate one, Stormwind with Elucia.
Oh, of course.
Free nerf Elucia, yeah.
When she got nerfed, I was like, this is completely fair. I'm sad because I enjoyed playing her, but it needed to happen.
She did do crimes, yeah.
She absolutely did crimes. I actually got Legend like an hour before the nerf. I'm sitting there like I should be doing lesson planning, but if I go on like a 7-net win streak in the next hour, then I can hit Legend for the first time, and I did. Because I knew that after they nerfed her, I was going to have to find a new deck, and it was going to, who knew if Shadow Priest would even survive. So after I hit Legend, played a bunch of different things, got more into proactive decks. Around Sunken City, I got into Naga Priest even before the Nathria cards, and it got a lot better. And Grumpy Monk from the Discord and I got all the way into top 1K, which was huge. And then it got nerfed for Blessed Priest Sins. Naga Priest did nothing wrong. But unfortunately, Boon of the Ascended did. And messed around for a while, and then there was this 7-up, as in 7 Undead Priest deck that got posted in the Shadow Priest thread in the Discord that I eventually realized was there. And there was 2 weeks when no one else knew about this deck. So people would just be completely shocked when you crushed them with it and didn't know how Najak worked with the silences. Sure. Where you could silence the stolen minion and not Najak. And they would kill the Najak and nothing happened. So got that all the way into, I peaked in the 100 somewhere. I ended the month of March at 277. It was the first time that I faced somebody with a gold card back. It was Yarla. I actually beat him. He got a little bit unlucky, to be fair. But I was in a position to take advantage of his really bad Rune of the Archmage. I was literally vibrating, and my partner was like, we have to go on a walk so that you get this energy out. Which was true. And yeah, I mean, since then, I've not quite maintained that same rank level since rotation. But, it's something that I know I can do now. And it's just been really exciting to work on growing in that way and having the skill at that kind of level. Yeah, I mean, it got to the point where everybody in my life was like, wow, that's really impressive. Can you make money at this? My mom's going, it's a shame you spend so much time on this and you can't monetize it. Can you monetize it? I have not. I
mean, you could before when there was esports, you could do it, but you can if you want to give up your teaching job and just grind ladder.
And just grind ladder and yeah, or stream. Before this, I'd never done any content creation, but I'm really excited and honored to be on. And I really loved the community and this podcast, and just really made Hearthstone something much more special for me than it was before. So thank you so much for having me.
Happy to have you. Yeah, and in terms of people saying oh, can you make money off this? I feel like that is increasingly hard to do from competitive standpoint. Even when I was competing in 2018, I made some money, but it's not
well, there's a difference between can you make money. There's a difference between can you make money and can you make a living, right? Those are two very different thresholds. You can definitely make money
for sure.
from Hearthstone, but are you going to be able you have to be in a certain echelon in order to be able to make a living off of it.
Yeah. I think of it like Hearthstone is a lifestyle game for me, but
Yeah.
I would not say professional Hearthstone player,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's pretty cool to have a hobby that pays for itself. Like, I'm
Yeah.
elated that I don't have to like get the expansions and people support us on Patreon. Like, that's a very cool thing. But yeah, Wicked and I are not out here living on.
Yeah, well, and also if it was my full-time, income, it would be harder to, I think, maintain as healthy a relationship with the game.
Sure.
People talk about, when something is a passion versus a passion and your job. That definitely can change your relationship to it. So I'm really glad I have this other kind of outlet and other way to stretch myself, and kind of try to take the way that I try to help my students learn and help myself learn and master something at a really high level. And it can, when you're teaching, you only have so much control because at the end of the day, your students are going to do what they're going to do. And in Hearthstone, you only have so much control because you can only choose to play, not choose to win. But it's a different, it's a more, I can focus on my own skill and how I'm going to learn it. It's a different kind of itch that I can scratch.
You're like naturally answering the questions that I have here. I'm just like, wait a minute. Okay, we did that question.
I can add more if you want. I will talk. I talk for a living. I can just go on. My students have learned that certain questions, they can get me off topic.
Well, so to go more in depth of what you were just covering, yeah, does your work as a teacher kind of affect how you approach the game more broadly?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that also, especially, focusing on cognitive psychology, and like that was my background in school, thinking about the way that, there's practice and then there's deliberate practice. And sometimes you just want to pull up Hearthstone and play and not worry about your rank and have some fun with it. It's a game, it's a hobby. So sometimes I just pull out, Purple Priest, just go. But when I want to work on improving, there's a certain amount of, really trying to talk myself through each play, take the sort of heuristics that I'm building up, the kind of gut feelings that I'm building up when I play a deck a lot, like Naga Priest, but turn that into more sort of words and explicit information that I can use going forward. There's not any magic bullet rules for doing well at Hearthstone, or we would just all say them and just always go face. Even in Purple Priest, you don't always go face, you just usually go face. And certainly, and if you're playing Control Priest, you don't always not go face. Occasionally you do need to beat them down.
Yeah, I guess. Those are the boring games.
I have seen your streams where you say, I do know how to go face.
But I try to keep that a secret,
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Well, wait.
That's why I say it on a stream.
Wait till we get to Wicked's Life and Ladder. This ought to be good.
Yes, I saw the preview in the show notes. I also think one more thing that I've learned, there's a lot of the main thing that you want to do to improve is just play the game, but there's also a lot of value in getting some external feedback and also seeing what other people are doing. Kind of like if you're trying to learn math, you need to do a lot of practice on the problems, or you won't kind of automate it. You won't just kind of get used to being able to do it quickly. So that's important. You also want to look at the textbook, ask your teacher, have example problems done for you, because there's going to be stuff that you didn't realize you could or should be doing by yourself. But you see someone, especially if you can watch people or get feedback on replays, and just kind of take a second to sort of ask a specific question or put into words. You don't necessarily even have to write it down. But what was the main thing that I learned from this? And is there any sort of more general principle that I can have for that? Sometimes it's just really specific, like don't leave this minion up in this matchup. But sometimes it can be more broad. At some point, I wrote down a list of things I called the Ridiculous Hat School of Proactive Hearthstone.
Was it just go face, go
him.
face, go face, go face, go face?
The first line is damage, damage, damage.
Yep.
Just kill him, face is the place. Always be counting damage, set up multi-turn lethals, and put your opponent on a clock.
Man, the number of times I have cleared a board and then just been like, they were dead, weren't they? Yup. it's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
Sometimes the simple things, you've known for years, always check for lethal first. Always check for lethal first. And I'll still be sitting there like, oh, wait, they were dead. And then I traded, and now they're not dead. And it's a blood DK, so now they're at 30 health again.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Well, I think we can close out with some quick hits here. So, favorite class, I guess, is Priest, right?
Is Priest, yes. I do play other decks, believe it or not. It does give a good sense of the meta.
You're mandated to say that as a Priest main. Like that's in the handbook.
Don't attack me. I play other decks. But yes, Priest.
And it seems you have at least a more acceptable range within the class.
Excuse me.
More palatable. Otherwise I'll be too
Palatable to
outnumbered here.
whom, Edel? Palatable
To me.
whom?
I can't. You didn't. Somehow I didn't know this. So, is your favorite deck of all time? Is that also a Priest deck then?
Yeah, that would actually be Naga Priest, even though I did the best with the Undead Priest. Naga Priest was just so flexible. I mean, there was games that you just bricked.
Sure.
But you could go for just kind of the rush him down early snowball game plan, or the wait and then get a giant minion out of nowhere game plan, or things in the middle. There were different ways to, trying to figure out what you were doing in any particular matchup was really fun. So I think that was my favorite deck. I did see a Naga Priest like a week ago, and they did beat me, but they didn't accept my friend request.
Oh.
Probably because they had beaten me so decisively.
Not everyone's willing to take the risk. It's
yeah.
It's a sad thing
Yeah.
about Hearthstone sometimes. But do you have a favorite Hearthstone character?
I had a little trouble picking this. I like the League of Explorers, especially like Finley. Finley, I think, is the best, but Reno is also very fun. And then out of Priest loyalty, Shadow Zyrella is maybe like my favorite portrait. I just think that one's really cool. And Purple Priest, she's already purple. And Tyrande is just great in general. Like,
Sure.
Yeah.
Nice. And then last but not least, for all the Coin Concede fans, what is your sandwich order?
I feel, since I'm Jewish, I feel like I should say like pastrami or something, but what I've been ordering lately is sourdough, salami, avocado, red onion, mustard, mayo. And
nice.
That's been pretty good.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you want to add or that we should have asked about before we just kick things off and talk about some cards? You lucked out on the
some cards. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Wicked, I think we need to hear about your life and ladder first.
Well, so I was at like 10,000 Legend on Saturday, and I was getting angry. So, given that I got angry, I picked up Enrage Warrior. And that deck's pretty good. That deck's kind of good. I didn't stay up there, but I climbed from like 10,000 to 2,000 in a day with Enrage Warrior. It was quite a day. I basically my wife took the twins to DC for the school trip. So it was just me and my older daughter who were at home. She ended up like eating Chinese food for breakfast and made herself sick. And I was not feeling great either, so I basically just kind of like sat, like neither of us were getting up until I had to go pick them up from the bus. So I just basically sat in my chair all day, knowing that neither of us was going anywhere, and I just jammed games of Enrage Warrior and had like a 70% win rate over the day, getting up to like 2K, and yeah, the deck's pretty good. I ended up actually queuing into an Overheal Priest at one point, like fairly high up. Like I saw a Crimson Clergy, and I'm like, oh god, like really, are we really doing this? And nearly lost to them actually, because they just got like Crimson Clergy into Heartthrob into like all of the heal stuff, and they had like 4 minions on board by like turn 4, and it's like Enrage Warrior is a lot like Naga Priest, where if you draw the nuts, like you can snowball really fast and there's really nothing your opponent can do. And then sometimes you have those games where you have a bunch of cards in your hand that are all good, but none of them, like they're all like puzzle pieces, but none of them interlock with each other. And you just have like this pile of crap that's not doing anything. And that was one of those games. And I eventually I don't even know what I did. Oh, I ended up like sticking like a Sun Fury champion and 2 anima extractors and just went to town, and eventually was able to get them with like a giant Grom right before they were able to kill me. Like I ended the game with like a 13-18 Grom for lethal, which is like that's an average size Grom. Like I had plenty of games where I won with like 25, 28 attack Groms. And because there are some games where you just build up a big Remornia and you just keep hitting like a minion and then hitting them in the face. And if you do that a couple times, most of the decks can't really heal out of that. And I took that into Tavern Brawl on Monday night and got 10 wins. So you know, it was actually just I was doing okay against Control Priest when I was climbing from like 10,000, but the Control Priest that I was seeing in Tavern Brawl like knew what they were doing. And so that was a little bit harder to get, because like you can still beat like Control Priest and Blood DK because you just build up like one big minion and hopefully they don't eat it or pull it out of your hand, and then you just get them chipped down enough that you can smack them with it. But that wasn't, or you know, like there are some games where it's just like they just find taunts and just put one taunt up, and that's enough to keep your Grom from hitting face. So I haven't really played it too much since the mini set came out, though I have been I've been playing various decks that have had still warrior decks, because Abyssal Bassist is a card that I apparently enjoy. And that's the 4/7 demon with lifesteal that gets 2 mana cheaper for every weapon you play. And by the way, when you play Remornia and Remornia turns into a weapon, every time that Remornia turns into a weapon, it discounts it.
I did wonder about that.
Yeah.
That was something in my head. I was like, I wonder if this works how I want it to.
Yeah. So I played some Black Rock and Roll Warrior last night. I ran into an Enraged Warrior who lost when their Olgra that had like a 50-50 for lethal ran into my 25-28 Abyssal Basis. And it both died and then healed me to full. So that they weren't winning that game. And I've been playing some of the Vicious Syndicate Menagerie Warrior today, because again, that has Abyssal Bassist. And by the way, there are very few demons in the pool when you're playing Amalgam of the Deep. So you very often either get another bassist or one amalgam band offered to you. So I've had some games where I've had like multiple one amalgam bands, and or sometimes you just like spam Abyssal Bassist and say, you know, your turn. But I won a fair number of games with that just over lunch today, because I haven't really had a whole lot of time to play between yesterday and today. You know, with the whole going to work in an office thing. I did pick up Ender Lilies again, which is a Hollow Knight style Metroidvania, because I need train games again, which are games that I can play offline on my Steam Deck. So I've been playing that. That's been if you like Hollow Knight, that's pretty good. That's as far as I'll go with it right on the show, because I already talked for about 2 hours. But yeah, it's been I like the set. I haven't really played anything other than Warrior yet, but I'm looking forward to it. But it seems like the set's
I-
been making some changes that are in a good direction.
I'm glad to hear you've finally joined us on the Warrior hype train. It was pretty awesome. But
I can be convinced. I'm a reasonable man.
So, how about you? How has your life and ladder been?
So I didn't really have a chance to play yesterday because it was the graduation day for my school, and early coin concede to my students who really pulled it out this week finishing up. But I had a lot of time to play today because I didn't have work today. Summer school starts Monday, but and I did play some of the Menagerie Warrior that Zacho from Fish Syndicate posted, and that was pretty fun. I had one game versus a control mage where I played probably 8 one amalgam bands and still lost.
Because they played 9 solid alibis.
They'll run out of solid alibis,
Yeah.
right? There's a limited. Between Blizzard and Solid Alibi. I did not win that game. I got too far into fatigue because I hadn't realized I shouldn't be drawing. And the deck has a lot of draw, which is usually good. But so that was fun. And then I was seeing people posting about Hunter. And I ended up on Pheno's Big Beast Hunter. And suddenly that did well. I'd really been wanting to play the Fire in Rage Warrior, and it feels like on paper it's my deck, and I just haven't cracked it yet. But the Big Beast Hunter, I just went like 7-0. Hollow Hound is a
that
card.
card's a house. Yeah.
Yeah.
That card is so good, especially if you buff it. But even if you don't buff it, even if it's not discounted, you just play it for 6, you heal for 9, clear 3 minions often. So, and then there's, I was able to play a bunch of big stuff, and that was super fun. And so that was kind of a upbeat way to finish, because I had been like down at 10,000 at some point also earlier this week, going, gosh. Climbed a little bit back when just went back to Undead Priest, sort of keep it simple. But yeah, I've really been enjoying the mini set so far. There's still a bunch of decks that I want to try. And yeah.
Yeah, the number of decks that I've seen utilizing card we'll definitely talk about later, Magesa, has been pretty great. Turns out people are willing to play heavy minion decks when you get a 5-mana 5/5 draw 5 cards. So
Turns out you could show your opponent all 5 cards that it drew and it's still fine. So yeah.
that is
Doesn't
a
even
bug.
matter.
We'll get
to
is
that,
a bug.
yeah.
It's only supposed to show the spells, but
Yeah.
For me, I did about the worst thing I possibly could with the Heroic Brawl, which is I enjoyed my vacation in Arbor most of the time, and then was like, oh wait, I really wanted to give it a try for that portrait. So here I am at the end of the period when only the tryhards are playing, and I'm like gunning for 12 wins. And like coming up on like running out of gold. I only bought 1 with real money, but unlike some previous times.
She can stop anytime she wants to. Just
Yeah. And I got actually my best run was my first run, which makes sense because I was doing that in a low pressure situation earlier in the week, and that was 11 wins. With the Fire and Rage Warrior, I basically hit up World 8 and was like, all right, give me the mulligan guide for this deck because I haven't played it with the riffs yet. My version had no riffs. And I followed that guide, got 11 wins, got high rolled by a big DH on the last
Oh no.
That
game
happens.
for
That
12
does happen.
wins. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, what are you going to do? I could taste it. It was so close. And then I see Immolation or Fell Scream Blast, and I just didn't have potent enough refill.
Yeah.
It was so tragic. And then from there, I kind of spiraled. I think my next best run was actually with a hunter list that Ron Mexico had been using, and that felt good. But at that point I was like getting fatigued, and there were a couple plays where I made it, and I was like, that was a huge misplay. Oh no. So I think if I really, really wanted to try for it, I needed to stop playing Tears of the Kingdom earlier and get on that. But what are you gonna do? So I hope they keep doing this though, because I'll be honest, I would not have made the attempts that I did if there wasn't some kind of motivation to strive for in terms of the skin. I don't know if it'll always be a cosmetic of that variety, or if they'll change it to something else. But I definitely like doing these, and I like having something to strive for, even if the timing this time didn't work out, because Tears of the Kingdom is an absurd game where you can make all kinds of fantastical devices. If you haven't taken a look at the TikToks for Tears of the Kingdom, they are spectacular.
My daughter sends them to me sometimes, and I'm like, what the hell am I looking at? Like, I don't... What is this game? Why are you, like, building Rube Goldberg machines with, like, Koroks? Like, what is happening?
I saw... So someone showed this tutorial of how to build this, like, Gatling laser, where it takes like a turbine, and you put like 4 laser beam things on each of the parts of the fan, and so you just got this spinning wheel of death. And then every once in a while, you shoot the whatever boss you're facing in their critical areas to make them like stunned again, so they can just keep getting hit by this thing. Completely absurd what people have come up with. And then you'll see some folks, showing a clip of that on TikTok and then saying, what is this game? This is not the game I'm playing. Like, I'm 20 hours in, and this has not been my experience. Yeah, it's delightful. And I haven't even gotten to that crazy tech stuff myself yet. I was just playing like Zelda Souls for the first period, just like maxing out my stamina, 4 hearts. I get one shot by everything, so I'm just trying to perfect dodge and all sorts of stuff. But it's been a great time. This is not a Zelda podcast. I have deeply considered. I think like Pat is rubbing off on me, because I'm like, maybe I should contact my old local host friends and do a Zelda podcast. I'm no. I'm about to have a kid. I can't do that. It's
just wait till Diablo comes out next week. Like, oh boy, yeah, I'm gonna be gone. Just gone, baby, gone.
But we have loads of new cards to talk about, so I think we should jump into the news.
Why don't we?
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
So, we got a patch. We didn't even get to talk about it last week because we recorded it too early. So we missed all of the Audio Apocalypse reveals, but we get to talk about them now. So, patch 26.4 went live on Wednesday, May 31st. The Audio Apocalypse is upon us. You can get the mini set for the regular one for $15 USD or 2,000 gold. Or you can get the all golden version for $69.99 USD or 10,000 gold. You apparently, this has come up, cannot buy at least the golden version with runestones, which we found out because there were a number of streamers who just stocked up on runestones, as one does, because if you're some sort of like an Amazon coins thing or whatever, you can just stock up on them and use them, and then wanted to buy the golden mini set and they were not able to. So if you haven't bought it yet and you're considering getting the golden one, or you're considering upgrading, just be aware of that. It's a weird thing, and apparently according to Deck Tech, this was due to feedback from the community, which makes sense because, I mean, the feedback on the runestones was overwhelmingly negative, but it does seem like a weird thing to exclude. So just be aware of that, but it is in the store and you can buy it. You can also just open packs, and like I ended up getting all but like 2 legendaries by just opening up all the packs that I got from the Tavern Brawl.
Yeah.
And didn't actually need to buy the mini set. So so do be aware of that. There is going to be a special event, Epic Duels of Rock Legends, where you will have quests that you either can do or not do, and it doesn't matter, because you'll get through it regardless of whether you actually try to do the quests or not. 200 of the quest currency will get you a standard pack. 650 will get you a March of the Lich King pack, and then 1,000 will get you a Festival of Legends pack. So no cosmetics, just cards. But that'll be opening up.
I'm gonna stop you real quick for the stream and mark it up. Webcams have died for Twitch.
Webcams have died for Twitch. That is not good. Oh, let me fix that.
Let me close my window and make sure my heater won't come on. I'll be right back while we're doing this.
Yeah, that's weird. Why did it do that? Okay,
Wall
it's
of
back.
markers.
I don't know what the hell happened, but it's back.
Okay.
That is bizarre. Okay. Well, that was fun. Okay. Yeah. So that's a thing that happened. So speaking of Diablo, we will be getting a return. Well, now it's gone again. Oh, wait. Is it because I have this? Oh, because I'm covering this up? That's stupid. Okay. All right. I figured it out. It's because I had it on my other screen that was on top of the Discord screen. I don't know why, but fine. OBS is haunted. So speaking of Diablo, we also have an event that is coming in on June 7th and June 14th. The Diablo Tavern Brawl is coming back. So this is something that they ran, gosh, it has to be like 5 years ago. The Dark Wanderer Tavern Brawl. I think for like the Diablo anniversary, it must have been. So it's a solo Tavern Brawl where you play against the Dark Wanderer, and and in this epic boss battle where progression is saved after a loss and the stakes are raised each fight. Progression is saved within each week's Tavern Brawl, not across both weeks. This is one Tavern Brawl run twice in a row, not a 2-week-long Tavern Brawl. Your first time defeating Diablo, each week will grant you 1 standard pack, and the first time that you defeat Diablo, you will get a special Lilith card back, which is very, very pretty. So, little extra Diablo celebration in the store for that. And then on June 21st, and they'll be repeating it on June 28th, we're getting a special dungeon run style Tavern Brawl called the Battle of the Bands. You play as a Phantom musician trying to win their way onto the main stage, face off against 7 randomized musical acts on your way to the final battle against ETC himself. Each week you get 1 standard pack for your first win and 1 Festival of Legends pack for your first full clear. So if you're looking for more cards, that is going to be something that you can look forward to. Did either of you play the Diablo Tavern Brawl the first time around?
Oh man, I feel like I missed it because I think I remember when I was able to like buy that card back with gold. I was very excited because somehow I had missed the event. So, but it is one of my favorite card backs.
Yeah,
I'm not sure when it was. I missed it, so I'm looking forward to it now.
Yeah, I know I did it. I can't remember anything about it other than the fact that there was a Dark Wanderer in it. So I'm looking forward to doing it again. But I'm a sucker for anything Diablo. Though speaking of more Diablo, Diablo is also coming back into both Battlegrounds and Duels, which the Battlegrounds players are less excited, I think, than everybody else, because Diablo in Battlegrounds was not a popular time. But it's been retuned. Now it's I actually I don't know if it's been retuned or if this is the way that it was, but Diablo, for those who don't remember, is a hero in Battlegrounds that you'll be offered, I believe, in every lobby. And it's got a passive hero ability. Every 4 turns, all enemies fight the Lord of Terror, and your warband for loot. So I didn't play Battlegrounds when Diablo was a thing. I know that every time that it's even like referenced in passing, there's a great gnashing of teeth and rending of garments. So, you know, we'll see how it goes this time, but that's the thing. We also have two other new heroes in Battlegrounds. One is Inga, the Iron Hymn. I have no idea where this character is from. I don't know if this is like a new character or some other Warcraft lore that hasn't made it into the game yet. This is a completely new to Hearthstone, at least. Has 2 hero powers. It swaps every turn. Either give a minion attack equal to your tavern tier, or give a minion health equal to your tavern tier. So that's one. And then Hogger is a hero now. So Captain Hogger was taken out of Battlegrounds as a minion, but now he is a hero, and his hero power works the same way that the minion did when it was on board. After you buy a pirate, gain 1 gold. So if you want to do APM pirates, just roll Hogger, and you'll be able to do that now. So, and there are also new epic animated emotes that are going to be available in the shop as well. So, either of you played since I mean, it's hard enough to keep up with standard. I don't know if either of you have played Battlegrounds since the patch came in, but
I am not very skilled at Battlegrounds. I'm pretty inept, which luckily means that when I do play, everyone else is also. So I haven't had a chance to play any Battlegrounds yet.
I play a little bit every now and again, but with like Heroic Brawl and Tears of the Kingdom and going to Ann Arbor, which I didn't even mention. I got to try an awesome hybrid electric cargo bike.
ooh,
That was awesome. So I think probably going to be picking that up at some point to use with the kiddo once they're like old enough to sit up. But yeah, so been busy. Haven't dived into Battlegrounds a ton, but since I am not offended by Diablo in BGs, I'll play some of that because I don't have to stream BGs like all the people who made that mode. So sorry, everyone's gonna be upset, but maybe that'll be easier for me because then I wouldn't be facing them anyway. But I was gonna say all the people that would like regularly main BGs and hate Diablo will like stop playing for 3 days, and then I can advance. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, maybe you just need to build Battlegrounds in Tears of the Kingdom, and then you'll play it more. Because it sounds like that's something you could do, apparently. So, anyhow, moving on to duels. Diablo's also going to be in duels, and I don't think I played duels back when Diablo was in duels either, and I think I'm probably gonna try because it seems like the kind of thing that would be up in my alley. But so he's back. He's got all of his original hero powers and signature treasures. He's also got a new treasure, which is a quest called Journey to the East. It says take 25 damage on your turns, and you transform into Uber Diablo. And Uber Diablo is a hero card, battle cry, or it's when you transform, deal 6 damage to all enemies. Add an Uber Apocalypse to your hand and draw 3 cards. And the Uber Apocalypse is a 10-mana spell that destroy all minions, and enemy characters take double damage for the rest of the game. So that sounds fun. I don't know how the hell you build that, but I sure do want to. So
Well, that sounds amazing. Yeah. I have no idea how that works in terms of balance or what the deck is, but yeah, gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, he's dual class warrior and warlock, so I don't know what you build to make a warrior warlock deck work, but I sure hope somebody figures it out because I would like to try that. And so it's got, a couple of other, there's a new active treasure, the Stone of Jordan, which is that's a legendary a legendary equipment from Diablo. Gained
Man,
+2
these are
attack this turn.
throwbacks.
Yeah.
I
Gained
never
+2.
actually fought an Uber Diablo, but
I don't know
always
that. Does
liked
it exist in the game? I've never seen it in.
Oh yeah. No, it
Does
was this
it?
whole like additional content thing that you did in Diablo 2. So you started in 3, right? Or
No, like
oh, no,
Diablo
no.
1 was the first Blizzard game I ever bought. I played Diablo 2. But I must not have ever done whatever you needed to do to get to Uber Diablo and Diablo 2.
So I did not do it, but I had heard of it, and it was like this whole sequence of stuff where you had to like fight these like special
Oh yeah, it's like,
monsters, and then
it sounds like a
eventually you
secret
would,
cow
like,
level type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it was. It might have also been like a limited time thing. I don't remember exactly.
I might have to look that up and see if they have it in Diablo 2 Remastered. It sounds like what you had to do to like with Wirt's Leg in Diablo 3, where you had to do like all these really finicky things that they made you do to clear the altar in the last season. But which I did, and I don't know that was a good use of my time, but that was a thing that I did. So, you know.
Yeah. So it's related to Stones of Jordan. Monster that spawns only on hell level games on Battle.net. You had to be playing online. When a certain number of Stone of Jordan rings are sold to merchants, a notification is displayed on screen whenever a Stone of Jordan is sold, indicating the number that have been sold. Once a certain number of these rings are sold, the whole screen shakes, and the words "Diablo walks the earth" appear on the screen. That was just like this specific thing to playing online Diablo 2 on hell difficulty.
Yeah, I never got to hell difficulty in Diablo 2. Diablo 3, sure, never in Diablo 2, so that's probably why.
Yeah.
So we've also got a new arena season. So all of the current arena runs ended when the patch went live. The new rotation is Core, Sunken City, Nathria, March of the Lich King, Path of Arthas, and Festival of Legends with the new mini set, so effectively standard. So basically the upshot of that is you can play the Audio Apocalypse cards in Arena now, or draft them. There are some bug fixes as usual. Hover over text now dynamically updates in real time instead of requiring it on hover and rehover to update. That's a huge quality of life thing. You know, especially when you're trying to see something that's scaling up quickly. That's pretty good. They added to and improved signature card tooltips. Photographer Fizzle Snapshot will now grant cards when recast by cards like Grand Magister Ramath. So I don't know how relevant that's going to be when it's recast by Ramath, because usually when you're playing a Ramath deck, you've played Infinitize the Maxitude like a dozen times. So I don't know how many cards you're actually going to get out of a snapshot, but if you find a way to recast it or play it from Rewind, I guess, is probably more relevant. Then that's something that you can do. Adel, you jumped up out of your chair, so you can feel free to add to that. But
I mean, as you say, pretty fringe, but I definitely remember a game where I had not done a ton of things, but I definitely had played a snapshot. And so I played an earlier Ramath expecting to get cards, and instead the snapshot was empty. So that use case is now available. If like you haven't done much, but your volume up drew your snapshot and you played it, then you can get another one. So cool.
Fixed a bug where Tony, King of Piracy, shuffled decks when swapping him. He's a pirate, not a magician. So we'll just leave that one there. Fixed a bug where a minion granted Masked Reveler's Death Rattle would check for not Masked Reveler instead of not this minion. So that was relevant in, well, basically every Jombre deck ever, right? where Masked Reveler would check would pull another Masked Reveler. Or I guess, is it saying that it didn't, right?
Right. So like if you're playing the Druid deck, you've got the 7/6, or they might have changed the stats on that. I forget. But pulls another Death Rattle and gains its Death Rattle. So if it gained the Masked Reveler's Death Rattle, it could still, on dying, summon a Masked Reveler instead of not summoning one of the 7/6s.
Okay. So
or wait. That's the way it would work with this bug fix. Previously, it was able to pull, say, that 7/6, but not able to pull Mass Reveler.
So the
So
lesson here
now,
is
now
don't.
you can low roll into a second Mass Reveler. Yeah.
Well, no, that is actually a better scenario than hitting another of the 7/6, which would have nothing in it.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, relevant in Big Druid.
The lesson here is don't play John Bray decks, and you never have to think about this stuff.
No, it's
That's
fine.
the lesson.
Big Druid is actually, I think, like reasonable.
Yeah. In Battlegrounds, Lord Barav has been removed from the hero pool due to a bug. He'll be returned to the pool in upcoming hotfix. Fixed a bug in Battlegrounds where Elemental of Surprise would sometimes be a little too surprising by triggering a triple at a time when the triple effect is supposed to be suppressed until the next shop phase. So that sounds hilarious. But so that's been fixed. Fixed a bug blocking loaner deck grants for some new returning players. Diamond Zephyrus is now available, so if you have all of the Saviors of Uldum cards, I got mine, you will get granted. It shows up as an achievement. So once you click through the achievement, then it gives you the Diamond Zephyrus. So that's there. It has been returned to a spot in the achievements and is ready to offer you the perfect Boulder Fist Ogre. So, enjoy that. Fix a bug where the friend of the friend achievement didn't track, and then all Hearthstone adventure, all old Hearthstone adventures are now available in the in-game shop for gold. So they were originally, before this, they were only available for purchase with real money, which is a bit of a concern for WoW players who are trying to catch up, because certainly like League of Explorers and Curse of Naxxramas were both pretty important adventures to at least have some cards from. At least rotating in and out, maybe not necessarily as much right now, but have been at various times. And it's, if they miss those, then they would have to go pay for those with gold. So now, or with dollars, now you can go sink your gold into those, and you can go get Finley out of a soup pot like we all did in 2015. So enjoy that. So that is it for the patch, though. As we often do with a big patch, we have known issues. There is an issue with where decks that don't have a card back assigned are treated as being assigned the classic card back. So you can assign a card back to a deck or uncheck limit to favorites, and then it'll fix that. So if you are concerned with that, then that's the workaround. Duels runs did not retire with the patch. The season reset will happen when the players finish the run on their own, either by retiring or playing other games. So if this happens to you, you'll get a tavern ticket in an update. They'll make you whole. There's a text issue with Uber Diablo's effect. So they didn't quite get the adventures in with gold, but now they have. There's a text issue with Abyssal Bassist. On mobile, the background screen blur between games doesn't go away. I found this happen when I had your opponent, like you couldn't connect to a game error pop up when I was trying to queue, and then the screen just stayed blurry. Everything works. So if this happens, like you can still like click on a deck or click around on the screen. Everything works fine. It's just it just looks like you lost your glasses. So they'll fix that. The team is aware that the regular Audio Apocalypse mini set can't be purchased on the web shop, only in game. So it's going to be added to the web shop. So if you go to battle.net and you go to the store, you can. That's the only way to be able to gift them, is by buying through the web shop if you're going to do that. So, so that they'll get that added. Arena leaderboards aren't represented correctly. The Lilith card back is showing as able to be purchased in the collection, but it can't actually be purchased. So if you buy it, what you're actually going to get is the secret level card back, which is the one that you got from the original Dark Wanderer Tavern Brawl back in 2018 or 2017 or whatever it is. So be aware if you were trying to do that without playing the Tavern Brawl, you're going to be out some gold. It's still a lovely card back, but it's not the card back that you're going to want. So you do have to play the Tavern Brawl in order to get it. The new cards tab is causing some issues viewing the collection. There's a visual bug where overdrawing at 10 cards shows the card burning coming from the wrong deck. So I've seen this happen where I burned a card from my opponent's deck and it looked like it was getting burned out of my deck. It's still coming from the right deck, but you'll see it looking like it is coming from the wrong deck. But everything's working fine. It's just a visual bug. And Magesa, Bane of Music, which is the card that the 5/5 that Battlecry draw 5 cards, give all spells to your opponent, is showing, as we mentioned earlier, is showing all of the cards drawn, as opposed to just showing the spells that are going over to your opponent. So they will fix that as well. So that's a lot, but I mean, this is a big patch, so those are, to be expected.
You forgot a very important piece, Wicked.
Yes.
I don't think you mentioned this. Unity, precision, perfection is going to be more perfect. We're getting a diamond Ziliax.
Oh yeah, we're getting there. We're getting to that. Yeah. So that was not in the patch notes. That was something that got dug up from data mining. Or I don't even know if it's data mining, just going through the collection.
Just looking in the collection.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, data mining is in scare quotes. But yeah, we're getting it. They're not live yet, but there's going to be a diamond Ziliax, a diamond Vargoth, and a diamond, what was the other one? No, I can't. I didn't have that up and I can't remember. It was diamond Shutterwalk. So
yeah. Enjoy
that. That'll be... I would play a diamond Shutterwalk. I've been known to play Shutterwalk Shaman in Wild on occasion because I'm as well documented a broken human. So those are coming. And we also do have some new portraits in the shop, including some characters that we haven't had before. And I believe Kit Wax Whisper, is a brand new character to the Warcraft universe, not just to Hearthstone. So Kit Wax Whisper is a new mage portrait. She's a kobold, and she's adorable. I have not bought her yet, but I'm very, very tempted. And she comes with a card back as well. So she's available for 1,500 runestones or $15. There are also some Scolomancy portraits. There's Wallflower Halvaria, who's not quite Lo-Fi Girl, but close. For Demon Hunter, there's Bookworm Elise for Druid, and there is Apprentice Hedonist for Priest. So this looks like an adequate Shadow Priest portrait if you're so inclined. It's purple.
It does, yeah.
It's sufficiently purple.
It is very purple. Yes.
Yeah. So those are there, and also there's apparently in the collection there is a new Gul'dan skin for Warlock. So that's not in the shop yet, but that is coming. As well as obviously the mini set and the golden mini set. So those are all there. This is what, and I guess I'll show for the folks on stream, this is what Diamond Shutterwalk's going to look like. And then we have Diamond Vargoth and Diamond Ziliax. So that'll be a fun day. I mean, Ziliax still sees some play in standard right now. So yeah. So I think that's it, except that we had some tournaments, so we should talk about those.
It's the grand tournament.
So we had a Lobby Legends this weekend, and Mega Alex JP is very, very good at Battlegrounds. I was watching it, and it was so for those of you who haven't watched Lobby Legends or haven't paid attention to it in a while, Lobby Legends, the way that the final day works is that it's in the check format. So so what happens is that you need to have gotten 20 points from lobbies, right? So each win is, so a first place is 7 points, down to 8th place gets you 0 points. So once you've gotten 20 points across however many lobbies, you've then put the lobby in check, and you have to win a lobby in order to win the tournament. So normally this takes like 5-6 rounds. Mega Alex just won all the 3 first lobbies and just put the whole lobby into check after 3 rounds, which is unheard of. It's basically, you have to go like 1-1-2 in order to be able to put the lobby into check in after 3 rounds, and he just did it in 3. So just first. It did take him 2 more rounds to actually win the tournament. That it seemed like everybody kind of, when there's only one player who has the lobby in check, everybody can just gang up on them and just make sure that, you know, whatever they're doing, just don't let them do it. It's an interesting dynamic when you're looking at a lobby where only one player can win the tournament on that round, so everybody else can just make it their life's work to just make sure that they cannot win so that everybody else can keep going. But then at least one other player put the lobby in check after round 4, and then that wasn't as much of a dynamic, and he was able to win after 5. But it was a very short second day, and Mega Alex is very, very good at Battlegrounds. So it was he had this really cool, I don't know enough to know what was going on, but there's like a mech that does X damage to you know, random damage when it dies, and then he had just like that in Kangor with a Rivendare, and they just kept like dying and resurrecting and just machine gunning the whole opposite board, and nobody could do anything about it. It was very, very cool. I don't know if that, again, I don't know enough about Battlegrounds to know if that's like a meta comp, or that's just something that he ended up getting into, but it was very cool to watch. So did either of you get a chance to, well, I guess Edel, you were in Ann Arbor, so I imagine you didn't have a lot of time to watch any Twitch, but
I mean, I'll be honest, I probably would have watched some, except that I forgot this was happening because there was, once again, like 0 promotion that was on my radar, which is kind of a big oversight.
Yeah, it's I was hoping that they were going to learn, you know, that was going to be one of the lessons learned after the Masters Tour, was that we needed to have more, you know, proactive promotion in the days leading up to the event. And I guess that hasn't gotten there yet, but hopefully that'll get cleaned up before the next Masters Tour. It was kind of, I mean, we talked about it on last week's show that like we recorded on Tuesday and had no information about like what the start time was going to be. I mean, we knew who the players were going to be, but we didn't have anything on like the start time or anything like that. So,
yeah, this is one where I knew it was happening only because of this community, and I didn't end up watching it because I don't know enough about Battlegrounds.
Yeah.
But with the Masters Tour, I've watched a ton of it, but again, was mostly aware of it because of Coin Concede, rather than built-in promotion.
Yeah. I mean, Sottle and Raven did a good job of casting, and I don't follow Battlegrounds enough to know a lot of what's going on, but I was able to follow it enough from their casting. So, you know, kudos to them at least. But yeah, it's and like the things they have in the Twitch stream, like the guess which player is going to win, or, you know, pick your fantasy team or whatever, is a good way to kind of keep people engaged throughout the day. So that's fun too. It was a good event. It was pretty fun to watch, and it helped that it was, you know, abbreviated, I guess, so it was easier to keep focus on it when it got good from the beginning. It kind of stayed there on the last day. But yeah, so I think our next Masters Tour is what, in July, I guess, because or no, I guess it's probably gonna be August after the next set comes out, because the last one was April, May with the set release. So I imagine the next Masters Tour will be August, and the next Battlegrounds will probably be Battlegrounds Lobby Legends will be September. So we got a little ways to go before the next esports event. So, you know, they got some time to figure some of these things out. But I guess enough about that. We should talk about some cards, shouldn't we?
So, as usual, we're going to be doing our sort of 5 different questions and cards that go with them, rather than going over every card. Even though it is a mini set, if we were to go card by card, we'd be here all night. So, for those that may not recall, those are card you can't wait to play with, card you're scared of, card you want to be good but isn't, card you think is over or underrated, and card you don't understand. So I think let's kick things off with you, Magesa. What card is it that you can't wait to play with, or I guess that you were most excited to play with, since at this, we've all gotten to play with them a little bit?
Yes. Well, this was a card I didn't quite have my radar until today, but then I was excited to play it, and both before and after I started playing it today, and that is Hollow Hound. Hollow Hound is the 6-mana, 3/6 Hunter and Death Knight dual class card. Undead beast with lifesteal, rush, and cleave, basically, where it also damages minions next to whomever it attacks. And I already have both levels of the achievement for it. Which is to do a certain amount of damage. It's just really good at stabilizing, big board swing. If you're facing something with small minions, it's excellent, but even if they have larger minions, sometimes you can buff it. So far, I've only played it in Hunter, but I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't have Death Knight uses as well. The fact that it's a beast and an undead, both of those can be relevant. I was actually originally trying it in a deck that World 8 put, which was running like Invincible, which is great when you landed on that, but the deck was a little too much, too optimistic, but it was really fun when it worked. But I don't think that this card is too optimistic. I think this card is really powerful. I almost put it for card you're scared of, because I also like to play decks with small minions. And this is pretty scary for that. Not what I would want to see as a Purple Priest. But it was just really fun today, so I put it over on card I want to play with.
Nice. And Wicked, you have, of course, a priest card.
I mean, of course. I mean, who doesn't love funnel cake? Right? I mean,
I heard some people worried about the implications of this card in Wild when we weren't even sure it was a real card.
So Funnel Cake is a 1-mana spell for Priest and Druid. Restore 3 health to a minion. It's neighbors. For each one overhealed, refresh a mana crystal. So I've seen Tom Berry Blue, who has been trying every incarnation of Overheal Priest that he could get his hands on, because he is Copium Incarnate. And he says it's still not there. I'm probably going to try it at some point to just see for myself. But, I mean, even without it being, like, a full-on Overheal Priest card, right? Like, being able to heal up a bunch of minions and then get a mana refresh off of it. Like, there are definitely, like, some Valish type things that you could pull off, right? Like, I mean, if it's 1 mana refresh 3, right? That's basically like, it's not quite unnerfed Innervate, but it's about as close as we're going to get right now. And you do end up with like a bunch of, especially when you're playing Control, right? Like you end up with just like trading off a bunch of things. You get some value trades, and then you're able to, to heal them back up, or even just like get a bunch of stuff on board. I could see running Heartthrob and Control again, because that card was not bad to begin with. And, like, if I could get another 3-drop and refresh some mana to be able to get some more stuff, like, that's there. I don't know if it's going to be there for this set, per se, but you can kind of see the Overheal package kind of starting to come together. And I think it's going to be something once it does. I just may not quite be there yet. Also, I love funnel cake. So,
There's got to be some deck that uses this, even if it's a faster deck that doesn't focus on overheal. Like when in Naga Priest, you would sometimes just play Felice for like 2 crystal refresh because it would enable you to snowball that early board. And you didn't always have to be super greedy with it. So I could see there being a world where this card is good. Again, I don't know if that's this set, but I'll be surprised if it makes it 2 years and doesn't see play. And I also saw the videos in Wild of playing like their entire deck for free with 2 Radiant Elementals. And then playing like Fizzle. So you snapshot and you get more funnel cakes and more mind blasts. And then you can essentially go until the rope runs out and cast as many mind blasts as you want, because you can get extra snapshots with Shadow Visions, which discovers a copy of a spell in your deck. So you can do this for as long as, and all of these things cost 2 mana, and you have 2 Radiant Elementals.
That's delightful.
So I don't know how hard this is to set up, if it's actually a problem in Wild, but it is possible, and it has been done.
I mean, it depends on your definition of problem, I suppose. But, you know, that's...
It does seem like a fun thing to see a clip of and not play against.
It's like the first time that you saw Svalna Priest, right? Like, that, you know, that was really cool when it was doing it the first time, and then every time after that's like, when do I get to take a turn? Like...
Although, I admit, I did actually kind of enjoy that deck. I did not play it optimally, but there was a period where that was the fun I was having in Hearthstone in certain metas was that deck. But for me, my card that I can't wait to play with, that I've played a little bit with, is Magesa. And that is because everyone's like, oh, players never like just playing minions on curve. Me, I like playing minions on curve. I like doing that thing. Not always and not exclusively, but I enjoy mid-range decks, and this is a heck of a mid-range card. So my favorite rogue deck was Odd Rogue, which, you know, is like blaspheme to all the rogue enjoyers. Magesa is just a card that says, hey, run like 2 to 4 spells max, and just lots of minions and weapons, or maybe locations, and that's great. So it's slotting into Menagerie Warrior very nicely. I have been tinkering around with, you know, mech decks is another place where this could go very well, even though it's not a mech. Those are very minion heavy lists. I could see it potentially making its way into something like a Totem Shaman, right? Where, you know, your only spell really is Bloodlust.
Well, that's kind of an important one, but yeah, like that's...
Yeah, but, you know, if you don't have any cards to like do stuff, and Rotkill is not a spell, and that will also end games. So I think there's a lot of minion decks right now. I think it's more common in 4 sets, and this card can really shine in those lists. So yeah, definitely looking forward to drawing hella cards with Magesa.
There was some conversation in the Discord the last couple of days about, well, you know, before this came out, like, well, you wouldn't want to play it in you know, this deck because you don't want to give your opponent a roaring applause. Like, you do not care. You really do not care. Like, I mean, this is like...
I drew 4 cards.
Yeah, exactly. Like we played Book of Specters once upon a time, which was like draw 3 cards from Mage, discard any spells drawn, and the whatever the Druid one was too, I forget. And now I've repressed that memory. But the one that discarded any minions that you drew. Yeah, but like we've run like burst card draw like this before, and like 5 is a big number. Like 5's a lot of cards. Like we have decks that were running Famished Fool before. Like, just take the Famished Fool out and put this in, because it's probably going to be good. Maybe Unholy wants to be a little careful with it. Unholy DK, that might be the one that maybe wants to be. No. Fino's
got an Unholy list, Magesa in there.
You'll just draw the second
only
Grave Strength. That's fine. You know, like
I think so. You took out Plague Strike, which is a big deal. That was a pretty powerful card that's been taken out. So the only spells are the Grave Strengths. But you've got a 5/5 draw 5 cards. I mean, that's nuts. Like your low roll scenario where you discard both Grave Strengths. Oh no, you only drew 3 cards. Like
then you just have to use Marigar to kill them, right? Like that's
exactly.
A shame. But and like yeah, go ahead.
You know, these are decks that tend to really want the draw. You know, all of these minion heavy decks need refill, and that kind of enables them to exist. So, yeah, this is a card that at first I was like, oh, that seems like a big drawback, but when you actually get to play with it, yeah, even the situations that are the worst usually are not a problem, or at least not a big enough problem. Again, if it's a minion heavy deck, obviously. If it's not a minion heavy deck, you're not going to run.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't go in every deck, but like Famished Fool, like I don't think people really recognize like how bad Famished Fool is a lot of the time, because they see it when it's good, like when you have it in your hand and then it's infused by turn 5. Like those games are not all that often, and like even when they do happen, you're still playing a 5 mana for a 3/5 that draws you 3 when you want to be doing anything else. Like 5 is a bigger number than 3. I'm pretty confident on that math. And like, and it's also a 5/5, right? So it's a legitimate body. You don't have to set it up. You just have to have, the only way you have to set it up is by making room in your hand for all the cards that you're about to draw. Like that's, I'm okay with that kind of setup. That's the kind of setup you want to do as an aggro deck anyway.
Like I remember when we had Subject 9, which was draw 5 secrets. And people were just like, all right, how can I add secrets to my aggro hunter so that I can play Subject 9 to draw the secrets out of my deck? Yeah. Like,
and it turns out you just put them in. Like that's how you did it.
Yeah. So yeah, just straight up drawing 5 cards, not really a tough sell. And the fact that it is just you give spells to your opponent and not like they have to be minions is pretty important, because as you know, weapons and locations are more relevant, like those are things that you get to keep. Say you have a menagerie version that does run, you know, a bunch of weapons for that demon, you get to keep those weapons, and weapons are pretty good.
I played against a paladin today that was running this with Dance Floor. And so that's, you know, I mean, they were running Menagerie Paladin with Dance Floor. It turns out being able to play all those minions and then give them all rush seems like a thing that you might want to do. So, and they get to keep those with it too. Yeah.
That's probably pretty good in Mech Pally as well. Dance Floor.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, that location.
You're okay if you give them a radar detector. Like you're fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's a deck that really needs comeback. So the Dance Floor seems like it could be pretty strong.
Yeah, turns out an animated broomstick that you could just press a button and activate is turns out that's pretty good. That didn't even make any of our lists, and that's just a good card.
As we're talking about scary cards that none of which are actually the cards we put as things we're scared of. Magesa, I'm curious about this pick, Reverberations. What scares you about this card?
Well, this is a card I feel like it'll either see no play, and just won't be good enough, or it'll be really fringe. But I do feel there are a lot of strong death rattles. So if Chadlock ever does become good, which they have all these super powerful cards, and when they high roll you're like, how does anyone beat this deck? But then the aggregated win rate generally has not been there for a while now. But, you know, even just 2 Drathirs is 12 over the top damage. Again, that's not going to come down super early necessarily, but if you get it off the slime. And, you know, I could see it with Egwene, although I'm less scared of that, especially since I enjoyed playing Burn Mage. I can see it as something that is probably either not really going to see play or is going to enable some kind of really powerful combo. Maybe not. Maybe it just sees play as a card that's just regularly good. You know, I think sometimes when we evaluate cards, we think of like the ideal scenario, and actually it's good just, for eggs or something. But although actually it could maybe be good for eggs. But there's potential implications that seem like they might be scary. I haven't seen any of that today, though.
Yeah.
You mentioned Shadlock, though, and sometimes that deck can take like a little bit longer for people to sort of narrow down what cards to include. And I think that scenario of Drathier, particularly, that even without having to cheese it out, like you can just play Drathier for 7 and Reverberations, and that's 12 damage.
And lifesteal.
Yeah.
In case that didn't kill them.
They're not dead. Yeah, no, that's kind of a big deal. The drawback, of course, being that they die as soon as they take damage, but if you're getting immediate face value out of it.
Let's be honest, those are dying anyway. And if they don't, then your opponent is, so it's fine. Like those are not going to last anyway. I mean, like this is the Jandis effect, right? Except that it's not a secret which one is going to die by taking 1 damage. It's well known which one's going to die by taking 1 damage. And like Jandis was good enough to need to be nerfed. So, and you get to choose what minion it is rather than just generating a 5-drop. I think that it's worth mentioning this is dual class Warlock Mage, and whenever you're talking about a mage card, it doesn't matter if you put it in your deck because you're going to generate it, a fair amount of the time. And like, if you get it on an Egwin, even if you put it on like a skeleton or like an audio splitter, right? Or like you really want to get fancy and you copy a minion that you Volcanomancied, right? Like there are like weird edge cases where you can just like, I don't know that it's a card you're going to put in your deck in Mage, but it's certainly a card that you could generate and find uses for it, especially in that deck that already has a lot of death rattles.
So, very interesting use case here. It just says a minion. I believe you can target an opponent's minion with this.
You sure can.
And then just ping it. So...
Yeah. Yes, you could use it as a scuff removal spell if you want to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah. I haven't thought about doing that, but yeah, that is something you could do.
I even faced the minion that does 1 damage to the enemy board every time you play a spell.
Yeah.
So if you have that out, then this spell by itself makes it so it dies for 1 damage and then does 1 damage. I don't know if we're running that, but I faced a control mage today that got that behind some taunts, and I couldn't kill it, and it did clear my board.
Yep.
If they're in Rage Warrior and they have an Anima up, then you're not as happy, but
sure.
So I mean, being able to like do that to an Anima extractor, right? Like, okay, fine, ping it, go ahead. Like now it's gonna die, right? Like there's like I've had people equality my boards. Right, and then that's like, okay, well, that's kind of sad now, right? Because then you get 1 proc off the Pyro or 1 proc off the Sunfire Champion, and then that's the end of your fun. Right?
I mean, I've run out a turn 2 Enema Extractor, and it just got hit with the pure Pally minion that sets it to 1/1 because they know it's like, no, that can't stay around. Yeah.
Or I mean, usually when I do that, it gets asphyxiated, and then I say a 4-letter word, but that's a different discussion.
You mentioned Anima Extractor, and I think that goes pretty well with the card that you're scared of here.
Yeah, I'm kind of terrified of Jam Session, which is a Shaman Warrior card, 2-mana fire spell with Overload 1. Give a friendly minion +3/+3, deal 1 damage to all other minions. So, yeah, it's a buff, and it's a Whirlwind effect, all in one. And that's... Plus, it's a fire spell for Thoribelor and Sun Fury Champion. So that's everything that a Rage Warrior wants, all in one tidy little package. And it's like I know there was a lot of discussion about like, is it going to be Blazing Power or do we run an Acolyte, or do we run like what's the 29th and 30th card in Rage Warrior, because you kind of got into this spot where you didn't really have enough fire spells, and you needed like to run Wild Pyromancer to make sure that you were going to have enough things to be able to do damage to the board, and this just solves all the problems, right? Like, it's another fire spell, it makes Sun Fury Champion better, it does damage to the board, which is something that you want to do, it makes it so you don't really have to run the extra pyro if you don't want to, because it's just got a pyro effect, and usually you only need that to go off once anyway on a turn. I mean, unless you have like an imbued axe up, and even then, like, you don't necessarily want to be like doing that multiple times unless you like have one of these crazy like Sun Fury Champion double anima extractor boards. And you're just going to set a new Guinness World Record for size of the Grom, but yeah, it's a very obvious inclusion into what's already a good deck. So
yeah, and I like going more purifier and not having the rifts, although I get the rifts are pretty good. I may be wrong in how I'm building, but I just like higher fire spell density. And yeah, Jam Session, I mean, Rampage is in shambles for sure. That was, the minion had to already be damaged, and it just gave it +3/+3. So, yeah, definitely excited about this one that you're scared of. Card I'm scared of, surprise, surprise, Druid card, Doomkin. Now, I don't know where this may or may not slot in terms of decks. I feel like people aren't really experimenting with Druid a ton right now that I've seen. But just the text of this card gives me chills. It is a 6-mana 3/4, which I know, terrible stats. Battle cry, take an empty mana crystal from your opponent. I don't like having my mana crystals stolen. Thank you very much. It's, yeah. The idea that I could be mana starved while my opponent is ramping is just really spooky. Also, very, very glad all that brand guff stuff is gone, because that would have been a nightmare to run into that. But I remember when there was the card that like got rid of a mana crystal for both of you. I think it was a warlock card, and that was kind of like an aggro tool to like keep them off their clears, but you were both working on lower mana. So imagining this scenario where it like ramps you and steals a crystal from your opponent. Oh man, it has me a little scared.
This is super easy to play around, Edel. Just don't spend any mana, and they can't take any of your crystals.
Is that how that works?
I mean, if you don't have any empty mana crystals, they can't take one, right?
Yeah.
You just don't use any mana. Easy.
Just don't play Hearthstone.
Got him.
Yeah. Okay. On turn 6, we're just floating 6 mana on turn 6.
Yeah, we should mention this is a Druid Warlock card, so this is the kind of
scammage
that Warlock wants to do.
The first time ever, I think.
Yeah. I don't know that this is actually. I mean, I'd be surprised if this gets played, because like you don't really want now that Guff is out.
Late.
Yeah, now that once Guff is out, like ramping on 6 or beyond is a pretty fringe scenario, and like if you don't get this on curve, it literally does nothing. Like if you're playing this after turn 10, right? Then which again, sure. I know most games don't. My games do, so maybe this is a fringe opinion, but like if it's after turn 10, this literally does nothing, because they just get another mana crystal the next turn, right? So that you have like a 3-turn window where this does anything. Well, I guess it's Druid, so it's not a 3-turn window. It's a probably wider than that. But yeah, I don't know that this is necessarily, I mean, if you can play a 6-mana 3/4, even if you're taking away a mana crystal, you probably didn't need this to win the game anyway,
Look, I didn't say it was rational. I just said it's
fair.
Scary.
That's fair. He is spooky looking. Revenant Rascal, thank you, Jake Herrick. That was the Warlock card. 3-mana 3/3. Warlock card with a battle cry, destroy a mana crystal for each player. There was also a Mojo Master Zihi at one point. I think
sure.
that
was also symmetrical.
That set both players to 5 mana crystals. Those were the days. That was how you countered Druid back in my day. Like that. That's how we liked it,
Yeah, or the Druid like finished their crazy pop-off turn and then played it at the end, right, to screw you over.
Well, that's always how it works. So yeah.
And any tool that you use, often they can use as well. But yeah, moving on to cards that we want to be good but aren't. I guess I'll kick this one off. ETC. I mean, it's cool. It's really cool, but in a lot of ways, I feel like this card, as like if it ever starts being powerful, people will just realize what the play is, which is to just take 8. Like you can, I think you can get caught up in thinking, oh, I'm going to spend all my mana and make sure to send it back to the opponent, but if you're like really worried about the effect, and your opponent doesn't have much other stuff going for them in terms of damage, like if there's ever a case where a deck is relying on just being good at playing all their mana every turn to win an ETC battle, you can just be like, okay, cool, I'll just take 8 on the first one. What do you got?
We should read the card. This is Elite Torrent Champion that we're talking about, which is a 5-mana 5/5 finale. Start a rock duel. It's all in all caps. Players must spend all their mana each turn, or else they take 8 or more damage. So this of course got revealed without the thing that goes in the hand that actually does the thing. So there was a lot of confusion when this came out. So what it does is it puts a molten pick of rock into your hand, which says after the end of the turn, explode for 8 damage, or spend all your mana to give this to the opponent with +2 damage. So basically that becomes like it's a card with no casting cost, so you can't play it. But once you spend all your mana, then it goes over to the opponent, and it will keep going back and forth until it's basically like a game of hot potato until it blows up in one person's hand.
Right. But at any point that this is being relevant, you can just opt out as long as you're able to take 8 damage. So like this cannot be a control deck's only source of damage, because then someone can just be like, yeah, I'll take 8. Or if you're too hyper control decks, you can just fill your hand and it goes away when it would transfer over.
Well, don't you play so you play this in Rogue, right? On 10 mana, you play it, or 8 mana rather. You play it, you shadow step it, you play it again. Both of the picks go over. Now they're taking 16.
Well, so you couldn't do it on 8 because it's finale, not battle cry, right?
Oh yeah.
You could do it on 5 and then step it and then do it on another turn.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I just assume Rogue's gonna find some way to abuse this and make me upset. So.
Well, the one time, and I almost hesitate. Please, listener, do not do this at home. The only time I saw it was a secret Rogue. They played Gravedigger to empty my hand, and then they played the new ETC.
Okay.
Now again, it's 8 damage because I couldn't really spend my mana anyway. Sure. But it was a way for them to get 8 damage for 5 mana. After they had stepped the Gravediggers.
Oh my god.
Please don't play Gravediggers, listener.
Oh. See, I told you Rogue was going to find a way to abuse it. Oh my god. I shouldn't have eaten dinner before this. Oh, okay. Ugh.
Well, why don't you go over and talk about your pick that's not going to be played?
Yeah, so Fanatum, Lord of the Opera. So it's a 30 mana 15/15 Warlock Legendary with Taunt and Lifesteal. This card's cost is equal to the amount of cards in your deck. First of all, I feel like that should be number, not amount, but I'm not going to get, that's not why I don't think this is good. But it's like, so you have to draw through or burn through your deck, or Jailer, I guess, in order to get this out. Which, I mean, thankfully you can't really play. I mean, you could play in a Ranthal deck, but that would be silly.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time that you've gone through your deck enough to play it, because you need to get below 10 cards just to be able to play this. And then you have a 15/15 Taunt Lifesteal that at that point in the game, your opponent can probably just hard remove. Because if you've gotten to that point in the game, your opponent's playing hard removal and they can probably just asphyxiate it or whatever, and then it goes away. And And then I hear you saying, but what about the jailer? Well, it loses the taunt if you play the jailer. So that kind of sucks because, I mean, now, yes, it's like, it's win more if you're playing it with the jailer because you already had a 10-10 on the board. And probably some other things that are going to hit your opponent in the face. Like, yes, it accelerates the clock, but, like, you lose the taunt, which is kind of important for if you're spending most of your mana on this. I mean, obviously, if you're jailering, it's free. But, you know, if you're jailering, you also kind of need to not die immediately that turn.
And you already spent 10 mana on the jailer, probably. Right.
So the taunt, it is not helping you survive the turn. It's helping you win the next turn, but you probably were going to be doing that anyway if they couldn't clear the 10-10. So it's a really cool idea. I love the idea of the card. I just don't know how it's going to be used except in Pure Paladin.
Actually, there was a note that Hat put in the Discord. Don't take it from the Countess because it does not cost 0.
Oh,
it costs the number of cards in your deck. And same with Thaddeus.
Oh, wow.
So Thaddeus doesn't help. Countess doesn't help. So.
Well, you wouldn't have to. Yeah, you wouldn't have that. Oh, yeah. If Thaddeus as opposed to the Pure Paladin thing. Yeah.
Not both of the. Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't have Thaddeus in the Pure Paladin. That would defeat the purpose. But yeah.
So, I just completely misread this card the first time I saw it. For some reason, I thought it was the reverse, that it got cheaper for how many cards were in your deck. I don't know how I misread it that way, but I was like, wait a minute. Couldn't you just like Renethal keep this in the mulligan and have a 15-15? I'm like, they didn't just do that, did they? That doesn't sound like something Team 5 would do. And then, it was pointed out to me. No. It's the opposite thing. Your deck has to be empty, which makes more sense with like the fatigue stuff that is in Warlock right now and has been a little bit. I will never count out Warlock from being able to turbo draw their entire deck. There's a scenario where that happens down the line and they will just have a 15-15 taunt to defend them going into the turn where they, draw a bunch more while in fatigue with that one drop and then play crescendos or something. It could happen. But
I did see some people. Yeah, I did see some people begging to have this banned in duels because there's the hero power where you draw a card and discard one of 3 cards in your hand to draw it, and then you obviously run like Malchezaar's Imp and everything else to draw through your deck, especially in like the early rounds where I think you only have like 15. You have like 15 or 20 cards in your deck.
16. Yeah.
And like 20 life.
Yeah. So like that could just like come out and then you probably don't have the tools to be able to deal with it that early in the run either. So maybe in duels this is going to be good. Not in standard, I don't think though.
Yeah, I don't know, because then the second scenario that I thought maybe and then is completely non-functional is I sort of assumed it had the demon tag because that would be a great void caller, but no, it's not a demon. So yeah, all the ways I want to cheese this out are non-functional.
It's not a void caller; it's an avoid caller.
Yeah. So
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see if there's going to be some kind of turbo draw Warlock that's able to make it happen, or maybe Jailer. This is just going to be good enough in certain situations. I don't know, but for now, doesn't seem like it. So, how about your pick, Magesa? I think, is this the Overheal Finale minion?
Yes, so I picked Ambient Light Spawn, which is 4 mana, 3/4. Hold on, let me find it and make sure I say it correctly. 4 mana, 3/4 Elemental, Finale and Overheal, give another random friendly minion +2/+2. It just doesn't seem like it's strong enough to bring the Overheal package to where it needs to be. A lot of the problem with that deck is that you cannot fall behind on board in this. It also requires you to have a board. It's hard to do, unless I guess you already have the location out. It's hard to do the Finale and the Overheal in the same turn. I haven't played with the Overhealed Priest myself yet, but what I was seeing from people who are playing it was that it just doesn't feel like it's there. And unlike Funnel Cake, which I feel like has got to show up at some point, if not now, this card seems a lot less, and it's a 4-mana 3/4. So even though you're getting the +2/+2 stats, that's not huge stats for turn 4 necessarily. I mean, 2 of it can go face instantly if you already have another minion, but it just doesn't seem powerful enough for a deck that needs the amount of help that it needs, which I think is a shame because I really like the idea of Overheal Priest, unsurprisingly. And maybe, at some point the Overheal package will have more support and this will turn out to be a good card in it. But I wouldn't hold my breath for that.
Yeah, it kind of has to outperform Shadow Ascendant, right? Like, that's Shadow Ascendant is a 2-drop and it's not conditional. Like, it's a 1/1 buff and not a 2/2 buff, sure, but it's an unconditional buff that is going to go off and it's going to go off every turn. Like, this can snowball if it's allowed to, but if it's allowed to snowball, you probably already won. Because you already have enough of a board that they weren't able to get rid of, and then you were just able to snowball it. Like, I was surprised even before this came out. Like, I talk a lot of trash about Overheal Priest, but I did almost lose to that one. And if it gets going, it can really start, making a board that's really hard to deal with. But it needs a specific draw to do that. If it ever falls behind on board, it never gets back on. It's like every minion-based priest aside from Shadow Priest, like current Undead Priest, right? Like Naga Priest is the same exact thing. Like, where if you lost board, you never got it back.
You had like one play, which was Samuro, and if you couldn't get that off, then
and same thing with Inner Fire Priest, right? Like, if you ever fell behind, then you were just like clawing to get back on board, and it was so hard. So it's the same thing. I want to see it. I think we'll get there. Like, I'm a little bit more optimistic, not in this set, but like they're gonna keep adding Overheal Priest stuff until it works. I think like they didn't make this keyword to not have it be a thing, but I don't know that today is the day.
I think it's another piece that eventually will all fit together to complete the puzzle. But while I'm not sure it's there yet, I think it is a step in the right direction, because I feel like what could happen with that priest is you would be making a bunch of stuff, but not necessarily able to kill them, even when you weren't having to deal with the, okay, I have to claw my way back on board situation. And this is at least a way to kill them, right? Like, it is +2/+2, and if you've got the location out, another +2/+2, and you're going to be able to keep getting buffs. So that's actually a way of gaining damage, because it's a minion deck without Bloodlust or Grave Strength. So you need ways of actually buffing up your minions. So in my mind, I feel like this is kind of helps the deck with that. But yeah, you may still just need a couple more pieces, maybe some kind of comeback mechanic for it to really stand a shot. But I think I'm still gonna try with Funnel Cake in this and see what I can come up with in terms of an Overheal Priest, because a little bit more density in terms of the pieces for it.
Yeah, you got 3 mana Holy Nova.
There are some powerful cards. There are some good Overheal cards, I think. So it feels like if not now, there will be something there, and this does help with the snowball. I just don't know, and maybe someone will come up with it. I am not particularly a deck builder, so maybe it is there, but I know that some people who've been trying to build it, at least so far, day 2, have not been successful yet.
Yeah, you kind of need like another card like Heartthrob that isn't mana geode, which is to say is not actively terrible. Because like Heartthrob is a real card, and if it can get going, it can really do a lot of damage. But like, there's 2 of them, and that's it. I mean, yeah, you can run like Gravediggers or whatever to try to get more of them, or run Animate Dead, but even Animate Dead isn't really going to help. But like, that's the problem, is like you have 2 Heartthrobs, and if you run out of those, like, what do you do?
Though I do think it has one of the better, like, 1 into 2 plays, which is Clergy into the finale spell. And then you've got a 2/5 that when you overheal it, you draw a card. Like, those starts. Whew.
That is Naga Priest like also. You got your
Yeah.
Slither Spear and your wig.
Yep.
And
Slither Spear coin wig.
and the leash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to cards we think are over or underrated, although in this case it looks like we have all picked underrated. I've actually run into quite a few of your pick here, Magesa. What do you want to tell us about Backstage Bouncer?
So this may be one that is not as underrated as I think it is. I didn't see it personally, but I also am maybe playing at a different bracket. So Backstage Bouncer, let me make sure that I get the stats right on this. Hold on. It is a dual class Shaman and Warrior card, 4 mana, 4/5, taunt, battle cry, transform a friendly minion, into a copy of this beast. A friendly minion is important there. And it definitely seems like something that not the particular list that I found, but certainly lists of Menagerie Warrior might want. It is a beast. They already have some good beasts in that deck, but still. And you often have like a 1-drop lying around, like a Mermy that's already died, something that suddenly becomes a threat. And it's also a deck that can buff. And it also, yeah, I think the Enrage list is really tight, although, if you got this really buffed up through an Anima Extractor, that could be very scary. So it definitely seems like there's use cases in Warrior, and possibly in Shaman as well, because if you have a totem that you haven't had a chance to buff, you just have like a little 1/1 or a 0/2 sitting there, suddenly it's a 4/5 taunt. It's a little bit like what you got with Construct Quarter, except for with taunt instead of Rush. And 1 time instead of like 3 times originally when that card was printed, so it's not Construct Quarter, thank God. Yeah, this just seems like a card I was surprised I didn't see today, but it could just be the opponents I ran into.
It feels like more of a Shaman card than a Warrior card, I think, just because Warrior has like so many, like there's just too many options in Menagerie Warrior, and like that curve is just so much lower that like you're already kind of clogged at the 4-drop spot with like with Sword Eaters, and there's some other stuff that's 4 mana it's a little bit too expensive for that. But in Shaman, where you just have the minions lying around, like even like the 1/1s, like the leftover 1/1 Piranha off the School Teacher, right, is something that sometimes you have like a 1/1 that you use just to buff up the other one so it can kill something. Then you got this stupid 1/1 lying around, like that can turn into something good. I mean, it's something you'll see off of Amalgam in the Deep, I'm sure, at least some amount of the time, if you're putting it on a party animal. So also, his little friend is adorable, and I want to know what his name is.
So I have found this to be quite powerful in Warrior. The Menagerie lists that I've been looking at have quite a few 1-drops, in particular, like Mermy, and Fino even has Frequency Oscillator. But just in general, with Hawkstrider as well, right? People clear a bunch of stuff, but they're not able to clear the 1/1 beasts that come off of Hawkstrider, and that's often in the Menagerie list. You then can play a Backstage Bouncer, and now you got a pair of 4/5. So it has seemed like a very powerful swing in those kinds of Menagerie lists that are pretty low to the ground, and basically the only 4 are Backstage Bouncer and Sword Eater. And so at the top of the deck is Bouncers, Sword Eater, Magesa, Nelly, 1 Amalgam Band. So just very low list because you're drawing a lot of cards. You've got double Roaring Applause and Magesa now, so you just want to play a bunch of stuff. It's really maximizing the ability to go for big swing turns, like you refill with all that card draw, and then go like Hawkstrider Rancher and 3 1-drops or something. And then if they're able to clear those, you can fully utilize Backstage Bouncer. So, yeah, I think we'll be seeing more of this card for sure.
8-10 taunt on turn 4, you know, even if you didn't buff it at all, is pretty good.
Yeah, I'm surprised it wasn't in any of the Black Rock and Roll lists that I saw, because that seems like
there's nothing to transform, right?
You do have like stuff that wasn't buffed in your hand, and you have, you know, some of those like utility minions. Like sometimes you have to play a Finley, right? So you'll play Black and Rock and Roll, and then you'll Finley to get the stuff that's been buffed, and then you can play that on there. So, you know, there are options.
Well, my pick here is Star Power, and I guess similar. Maybe people are playing a bunch of this, but I felt like this was something that I didn't really hear people talking about too much, and just feels very powerful in the games I've used it. You know, it's a support card, but it's dual class Hunter Mage, 5 mana, deal 5 damage to a random minion, and then 1 less. Repeat this for 1 less. So it goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It works like Shell Shot.
Which, except
all
more.
to enemy minions. Yeah.
All right, all to enemy minions, but you start at 5. So, and Shell Shot never really got a chance to shine because it was only in Hunter, and also like could be an awkward clear. But starting at 5 just clears so many more things, and with the ability to like get spell power in Mage, you know, with, you know, an Aegwin or something. Yeah. Like I can see this being a good control tool, also being a good in you know, something that is a little more aggressive, just because it only hits opponents' things, so you can like clear the way. I was messing around with like a secret mage list that actually had these, so you can like clear stuff for your minions to attack through. I just think this is while, you know, sometimes awkward and at the mercy of RNG, it's just a lot of damage to clear the things.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a mage card. You'll take it from Discover sometimes, and then Ramath will replay it on the Ramath turn, which means that you're probably getting a pretty good board clear. I don't know if you want to do that, depending. I guess it depends on how many Deathborns you've generated, but you know, being able to put a good chunk of damage, and that's again assuming you don't have spell damage. Also, Hunter has the Arcane package that puts spell damage on the cards, right? So like this is not necessarily starting at 5. This could be starting at 7 or 8. And those are big numbers. And, you know, it just kind of keeps going until the board's clear. So 5 is a lot, but 5 for a board clear, especially in 2 classes, 1 class that desperately needs board clears and one that often just doesn't have them. It is, I mean, it's worth it to pay a premium for that.
And Control Mage, one thing that I noticed when I play it, it needs clears that are not Deathborn.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Deathborn's super powerful, but sometimes they're bigger, and you just can't get down. Even, yeah,
absolutely. The board swings out of Deathborn are very nice, but every once in a while, people just have big minions, you know, especially against something like Enrage Warrior, and you need that extra damage. So.
You really notice how much you miss, like something like a Flame Strike, right? Like, you just want to be able to just like do some damage to the board, and you just like, these are all bigger than 2. What do? I guess I just play another Salad Alibi and hope for the best. And sometimes that works out, but you know, depends on how many of them you find.
Well, why don't you tell us about your pick here for underrated Wicked?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've kind of talked this up already, but Abyssal Bassists. God, is this a card? So
that is a good card.
Yeah, it's 7 mana 4/7 demon with taunt and lifesteal, costs 2 less for each weapon you've equipped this game. So you generally play this with the tuning fork, which is the remix tuning fork, which gets one of a few different abilities. They're all generally pretty good. Like there's a cleave, there's +2 attack, there's gain 5 armor, and there's discover a taunt. Discover a taunt's like usually the least exciting one. Sometimes cleave depending on the situation, but like a 4 attack weapon is pretty good. And then you run this, you run Sword Eaters in that deck. Sometimes you run Remornia, depending on what kind of a deck you're playing. And like I said, Remornia discounts it every time that you re-equip the weapon. And like you just get to a point where you're playing these for 1 mana at the end of the game, and you're copying them with Voon. If you're playing Amalgam in the Deep, you're probably just getting another one. And especially like in Black Rock and Roll, they're just like, what do you do? It's like every time that you've run into like a Gnome Muncher, right? And like this isn't actually like attacking, but it's like sometimes the only way out is through, and then like you're just healing the opponent for like a gazillion, and you have to spend all that damage getting through the taunt, and it's just a wall, and it comes out like way quicker than I would have thought. So I mean, every deck that I've played this with, I've been incredibly impressed with how quickly they come out and like how much work they do when they hit the board.
Yeah, this is a card I played a little bit, and it felt really good. I saw it in the list, and I had seen some people in the Discord saying, "No, this is a good card." So I'm like, okay. I played it. It comes down way faster than you think. And then even if it is later in the game, a 1 mana 4/7 taunt lifesteal, or 2 of them, is pretty good. Helps you, by that time that you need to get your 1 Amalgam band or bands to do their Wind Fury thing face. So yeah, even if you're not running Remornia, it's not that hard to get these out.
Yeah, even just like the Sword Eaters, like you copy Sword Eaters with Voon, like you'll just play the Tuning Forks because you need stuff that's not spells to do damage anyway in that deck because you're running Magatha, and like I don't think I've ever found a taunt lifesteal minion I didn't like. So I mean that's just me, but it's really pretty impressive, like how much like you just get to fit it into turns, especially with your like, oh, I'll just play a Sword Eater and I get to play this also for free. Like, okay, I'll do that. I'll take a Sword Eater with a friend. That seems fine.
Yeah, I'm curious if it'll make its way into any Demon Hunters as well, because I've definitely been seeing, the warrior use cases, whereas Demon Hunter, I think it like isn't quite in line with some of the big DH stuff necessarily, and there hasn't really been a weapon Demon Hunter presently, but I don't know, maybe this is a reason to try and build towards that.
I mean, I guess you could
very
run
powerful.
You could run like the 1 mana Outcast weapon along with the Glaivetar, and then that's kind of enough weapons. It's I mean, especially if you're doing like, I mean, I guess theoretically you'd be running like the Instrument Smasher that like equips a new weapon every time that you break one, but like that's kind of being a little bit too cute. It's definitely not going to fit in Big Demon Hunter because like you never want to pull this out of a Fellscale Evoker, like ever. Right. Like it's good, but it's not like Illidari Inquisitor good. But and I don't even like Relic doesn't even really run weapons. So, it's really just like Outcast DH. I just don't know if it would fit in there just because like everything is like the whole deck is just so low to the ground, and you don't really want to spend the time it's going to take you to chew through a bunch of weapons to make this cheap. I guess if we ever got like another multi-strike deck coming back, like that might be where this would fit. Like it feels like a Brute Me Dude type of situation, right? Where it's not quite a brute, but it's close enough. But you'd really need like a multi-strike deck to make that happen.
This is not something that you want clogging up the left side of your hand.
No.
Right.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
An Outcast, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that brings us to our final category, which is cards that we don't understand. So I'm curious what it is you don't understand about Blood Treant Wicked.
I understand the what. I don't get the why. Like, it's Blood Treant, it's a 5 mana 2/2 Druid and Warlock minion, and it costs health instead of mana. So you pay 5 health to play a 2/2. Now, I get the theoretical use cases, like with a drum circle or whatever, that you could just get like another minion on board. But it's like, am I really putting a 2/2 minion in my deck that I then have to pay 5 health to put on the board? I mean, I get that it's effectively free because you don't care about your health in those matchups, but like, is that really a thing we're doing? Ever?
I mean, hey, it's free. Tempo good, right?
It's also important to note that even if you have something that makes your hero immune, like in Warlock, you still are paying 5 health because those things just block damage to your hero, and this is paying health instead. So, yeah, my first thought had been like, oh, you know, that 1/3 that makes your hero not take damage, as well, this is not taking damage.
Yeah, you're paying damage. You're paying health, not
what
taking
about
damage.
the weapon? Because the weapon like prevents and then gains you life. Does that
Same thing?
Same
It
thing?
doesn't count. Yeah, that was the change that went in the beginning, at rotation, to prevent things like the Stealer of Souls, you know, where you would play where sometimes at the very end when people got desperate with Stealer of Souls, they would play it with the Warlock quest, and then play it after you played Big Tammy, and then, you know, you wouldn't take any damage. You give that all to your opponent. So they changed that at rotation, so it doesn't work that way anymore. Whenever it says it costs health, you're paying health, you're not taking damage, so nothing prevents that.
Gotcha. It's okay. It's painful, but you don't imagine there's at some point a world where it's just like you're a really aggro deck and you're willing to just take that damage for an explosive turn 1?
For 1/2/2? Like,
yeah,
if it was doing more than that, I would like. It's, you know, I mean, it seems like for 1/2/2 to pay 5 mana just seems like you'd have to have a really good turn 1 for that to happen. Because like the number of times that you're going to top deck that, and that's going to be your draw for the turn, like yeah, if you get it on 1, it's fantastic, right? Like you get another 2/2, you don't care about your health because it's turn 1. You get to get, like, you know, play a 1-drop and play another 2/2, and then you can buff them both. Like, yeah, in the best case scenario, sure, you're also going to top deck this when you're at 5 health, and you're going to be sad. I mean, again, that's the worst case scenario. It's probably somewhere in the middle, but it's like, how you have to be so all in on a token strategy in order for this to be a card that you're going to put in your deck, because typically the token decks are not putting a card in that generates a single minion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're looking to be generating multiple minions from that one card. So it's more that the fact that it's not that it's 5 mana for a 2/2, it's 5 mana for 1/2/2, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of makes me wonder why you would be doing that.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I've seen situations where you're like, I'm going to run some pirates to pull a parachute brigand out of my hand. Like, just because it's a free 2/2. You know, a little bit different dynamic, but same sort of idea in terms of, I'm going to do this, you know, suboptimal thing for a free minion. Yeah, I don't know. I gotta imagine there's going to be some kind of aggro druid that'll just run this for those explosive early turns.
5 health is a lot of health, though. I mean, every once in a while, Paladin runs into a problem where it's damaged itself against a burn deck, and then it just dies.
True.
Yeah.
So there are some matchups where it's a liability.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, we'll have to see. You also picked a Warlock dual class card here, Magesa. Tell us about Fiddlefire Imp.
So Fiddlefire Imp is 3 mana, 3/2 demon and imp. Battle cry, add a random fire mage and fire warlock spell to your hand. The only fire warlock spells are Arson, Accusation, Hellfire, and Immolate. There are more mage ones: Flame Geyser, Volcanomancy, Explosive Runes, Fire Sail, Fireball, Firelance Portal, and Pyroblast.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like 1/3 of the time you're getting an immolate. And you're relatively likely to get some sort of board clear between Fire Sail, Hellfire, Volcanomancy, although that's not instant. You might get some direct damage from Mage, but it just seems inconsistent. I don't really know that. I mean, one thought that I had was, does Imp Lock want to run this? Because it is an Imp.
Mm-hmm.
But some of those clears would clear your own minions, which is not necessarily what you want in Imp Lock with a lot of small imps. Maybe if you're sort of a hybrid transitioning to a later game plan, you might want to play this. But I just can't really figure it out. And since it's not Discover, that makes it a lot less consistent. It kind of has to be random given that it's a small pool. So I can see why they didn't make it Discover necessarily, but yeah, I don't really know what kind of deck you're running this. And I definitely can't think really of a Mage deck where you're running this.
I mean, where do you care about fire spells, right? I guess that's the question. Like, what makes you care about, like, what? Because I was thinking about Pyrotechnician, but that's the other way. It's like whenever you cast a spell, add a random fire spell. Like, if you have something that cares about fire spells, that's in Warrior right now, so that doesn't help. But if there's anything that cares about fire spells and you need fire spells, then okay, great. I mean, I'm sure we'll get more Warlock fire spells. But yeah, it being like Arson Accusation and Mage isn't terrible because I guess you could ping your face if you really needed to. But yeah, the Immolate is, I mean, Immolate's whatever. It's not exactly what you're looking for, but I guess if you're getting it as a second spell, because all the Mage fire spells are decent. I guess Volcanomancy is really the low roll there, but they're all kind of different levels of decent. And you know, if you're looking at it as Battlecry, add a Mage fire spell to your hand. Oh, by the way, get one of these three pieces of crap that you'll just dump, right? Then maybe it's a little bit better that way. I don't know.
Yeah, I basically see like two scenarios where this is a functional Hearthstone card. for Mage, it's like you want to have, you know, some sort of clearing tools, but you're keeping your actual Mage spells slim so that your volume up is more consistent somehow. And so you run something like this to give you decent odds of hitting, you know, something like a Hellfire, Fire Sail, Volcanomancy, or just like some kind of damage spell to remove stuff, because a lot of the things are removal, pretty much, you know, most of them. It's not always going to be, you know, exactly the kind of removal that you want, but
we didn't say it was good removal.
Yeah, many options are going to remove things, right? And I think what you were saying about Imp Warlock, Imp Gang Boss has never been like spectacular, so I could see like swapping it out for Fiddlefire Imp just because of the scenarios where it can give you burst damage. That's basically it, right? That you're hoping that one of the two things you get is going to be burst damage that you'll be able to surprise your opponent with, because, you know, you've got crescendos, but you don't always get to use those when you want to, because sometimes you need to use them for a, you know, clear. So just having extra reach in that deck maybe could be powerful, but yeah, not super consistent. So we'll see if it's worth it. I don't know. My pick is a card that I definitely saw some people talking about in the Discord, comparing it to Kayn. So Rhythm Dancer Risa is the dual class legendary for Rogue and Demon Hunter. It is a 4-mana 3/5 rush. 5 mana 3. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, 5 mana 3/5 rush. I'm sorry. Kayn is a 4-mana 3/5 charge. You see the comparisons being made.
They're obviously the same card. I don't know what you're talking about.
5 mana 3/5 rush that says whenever you attack with a weapon, return it to your hand. It costs 1. So it kind of reminds me a bit of Sour Fang, where it's 5 mana 3/5 taunt, dies, you can start playing it for health. So like pretty mediocre the turn you're playing it, with this payoff of getting it, you know, somehow reduced or higher tempo later on. I suppose the idea is like you do that and then you swing with the weapon you've got equipped. And now in Rogue, you've got this 1 mana 3/5 rush to combo with things. And I guess Demon Hunter, you like rush into stuff so that you can hit face with your things that can hit
Well,
face.
you can multi-strike, right? Like, so you can do this multiple times.
Halvaria? Have a nice
okay.
thing to play with
Yeah,
Halvaria.
Halvaria's, yeah.
Sorry, it's not attacks with a weapon, just after your hero attacks. Yeah. So, yeah, could be okay with Halvaria. But that first turn for both of those classes is just gonna be so painful because neither Rogue nor Demon Hunter wants to pay 5 mana up front for this for the promise of like a reduced version later. I'm not sure that's ever really making the cut because of how steep the cost of that first turn is.
Well, I mean, like, what if Remornia was in Rogue and Demon Hunter, and also it was terrible? then you have this, right? Like, I guess if there's anything that cares about playing X number of minions, right, then maybe that's something. I mean, Halvaria is a legitimate thing because you want a bunch of rush minions. So if you can just keep bouncing Risa, like how, I mean, I don't know how much mana this is, but like, you know, you rush in and then you attack once to set it up, and then you have like a Halvaria multi-strike, and then you start playing Risas. But it's a lot of mana because like you have to pay for it every time that you want to attack with it. I mean, it does stay in your hand, so you know you get to keep using it, but also it's staying in your hand and it's not gonna hit your opponent in the face, so that's not great either. I got this in Golden and I was sad, right? Because I looked at it, I'm like, what the hell is this? And then it's like, oh great, okay, fantastic, you know. But yeah, I could see some sort of a Halvaria thing happening, but yeah, it seems like so much setup for a deck that already wants to just end the game so quickly. I don't know what you're doing with it.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Perhaps I'll be proven wrong, but I feel like I said all the things Hat would have said about this card. So, yeah, but just thinking about that. Man, Kane is 4 mana. It's tough comparison. Yeah. Well, I think that's gonna wrap up the show. So, thank you, Magesa, for joining us. This was awesome. And
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. We have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at coinconcede.com. We can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. And write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede, as well as like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinconcede. And if you would like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thank you to our producers, Number Theory, Doge Decay, Crash, Cap, Beef Squatch, David P, Fade to Black, Walu, Jeremy T, Bottle Caps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Reagan, Forgiven One, and Enraged Chicken. And, yeah, Wicked, you got any coin concedes?
Yeah, I'm gonna coin concede to Beef Squatch. We did a coaching on Enraged Warrior on Saturday in the middle of my run. It just kind of happened that way, and then I ended up running into them on ladder later in the weekend, and it was a very good game where I had one of those 25 attack Groms in my hand for multiple turns and could not get a lethal. He just kept finding ways to put taunts in the way, like just enough taunts to stave off the Grom. And I don't think they knew that it was in my hand, but I mean, I told them afterward, Like, you did an excellent job of playing around. I mean, I had one card left in my hand and they'd seen like a million anima extractor buffs. So like you kind of get a hint that if it hasn't come out by now, it's probably what it is. But just kept playing taunts and kept often. I ended up losing that game because I just can never get the Grom through. So, you know, I guess the coaching worked. And, but it was a cool game because I thought I had it in the bag, and just like I'm sitting here with this 25 attack Grom in my hand, like just wait, buddy, you'll get there, and just never got there. So
Magesa?
Yeah, so I have a few, so I will be quick on them. So my first coin concede is to the two of you. It's just really an honor to be able to come onto the podcast, and also, you know, you are what really makes this podcast and this community so great. So I'm just really thankful for both of those things. Also, coin concede to Ridiculous Hat. I really wouldn't be here in terms of where I am in Hearthstone, I think, without his advice on the show, his advice on the Discord. And the first time that he responded to me, I was like, oh my God, it's Ridiculous Hat. He's seeing my username. Because I've like been hearing him on multiple podcasts for months. Did some coachings, and also just really helpful for the mental game, not just the how to hit face game. And I know he's doing a great job at Blizzard. And to the CC Discord, just for being my favorite place online, really welcoming, really a fun companion during my day, and support in Hearthstone and in general. And a shout out to Grumpy Monk, my Purple Priest and Naga Priest partner in crime. Congrats on passing your final boards, and now you are Dr. Grumpy Monk officially. And finally, coin concede to my family, friends, partner who listen to me talk about Hearthstone. None of them play Hearthstone. But they all now know a lot about it, and just really supportive of me, and excited, and also not letting me wallow in my tilt for too long. So thank you to all of them as well.
Awesome. Well, my coin concedes are going out to people who I scheduled coachings with and twice had to reschedule because of my various forms of illness. Initially, it was, you know, the coughing and respiratory stuff, and I kind of got over that. And then it was really hot on Tuesday, and I went for a very long walk with my nephew, like I often do in the mornings, and I did not hydrate properly. I hadn't had breakfast.
No.
And I don't know if this was the cause, but it seemed like my condition sort of worsened over the course of the day to the point that I actually took off work the next day. I was so nauseous and messed up. I can't think of anything else because it doesn't seem like I've been contagious, but I actually like threw up because I was so ill from like the heat and bad air quality or something. I don't know. I could also take better care of myself, but so I'm working on that.
Did you perhaps have Chinese food for breakfast, like someone who apparently
No.
I've you know, brought into this world for some reason to have poor judgment about that?
No, it was just like, I mean, if anything, it was because I didn't eat enough food. But then, you know, once I'm sick, I often don't really want to eat because I feel bad.
It could be
So
dehydration. That could have been part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that must have been, it was so funny then today when I came back, my brother-in-law was like making sure anytime he came in, he just like handed me a glass of water. And I'm like, was yesterday that bad? Like, but I think it was effective because I'm feeling much better now. So yeah, coin concedes to Night Owl and Pilot for being very flexible and cool about that. I'm going to reschedule with them for sometime this weekend and it'll be okay. But
All right. Well, I guess that's gonna do it. So until next time, keep calm and go drink some water. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
coin concede.
Coin concede.
Okay. Stopping recording.
You didn't play the bumper.
No, I don't. No, I did that once, and then everybody told me nobody that hat never did that, and it takes forever. So I haven't been doing that.
He often like started it and then cut it out.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Don't worry about it though. It's fine. I added it.
I can do it now.
I add them from like a totally separate thing. I have a different multi-track file that I open every time that just has the sounders, and I pull them from there.
Yeah, so like I think you told me like, oh, I do it in post, like don't do it, and like okay, so I'm not doing it anymore. So that's what you get.
Don't have to do exactly hat. It is a new.
Yes,
That's true.
New coin concede
We've
era.
done a lot of weird things. Some just determined by, oh, well, I mean, that's the color it was in the show notes, so I guess you're the one that reads them.
Yeah, it's fine.
We'll just roll with it. It's cool.
I was like, oh yeah, you have to figure out what to say for the coin conceal. Like, oh yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Okay, it's mine now. That's fine. Okay, so I think we should raid Dragon Rider because she's doing her anniversary stream.
Oh,
tonight.
No kidding.
So
5 years.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So
Wow.
we should go raid Dragon Rider. I think that's a good thing to do. So she's Dragon Rider TCCG, right? Holy crap, it worked. Okay, excellent. First try. So thanks everybody for coming out. Episode will be out. It'll be on the Raw one will be out, ASAP, and then this will be out this weekend. So thanks everybody for coming and hanging out, and enjoy the mini set and say hi to Dragon Rider. Bye everybody.
Bye, friends.
Bye. Thank you.